the idea that they're going to do public executions. I saw that on Bloomberg. And I don't think that's something that wins hearts and minds. And that made me want to ask you, how is Russia? How are the people? Do they know what's going on? And do we know what they're thinking?
It's a very good question. We don't know exactly what the Russian people think, but based on a number of text messages and communications between some of the soldiers, Russian soldiers here and back home, many of them, and the Ukrainians have released these, many of them did not realize they were coming to attack civilians. They thought they were going to be welcomed as peacekeepers and saviors, and they are largely surprised at the resistance they faced. One was calling home to his mother saying, "I didn't know I was going to be asked to shoot people or to kill civilians, but here we are." What the Russian people themselves know about it, it's hard to tell, because, of course, Putin controls so much of the media out there. It is likely that that many of them believe many of the lies he's telling, that the Ukrainians were a real threat to Russia, that there was a genocide happening. So he controls the TV stations, he controls the radio. He does not have such a control over social media. And if you have VPNs, some of the youth in Russia will be able to hopefully get access to that, and maybe they are learning the truth. It ties into this idea of sanctions as well. Will the sanctions help or hinder Russian domestic opinion? Because, of course, if Putin can spin it the right way, then sanctions can backfire and people could start to blame the West for the hardships they're about to face. Hopefully they realize that it is because of Putin's actions that those sanctions are coming their way. But you just don't know, based on 22 years of Putin's rule, iron fist rule of that country, which way they really might go.
Benjamin Hall, we've taken up a lot of your time. We're grateful for it. Go stay safe, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
He is quite incredible, just all of the knowledge that he has covering Europe for so long. I wanted to play call for number 3, if you would. This is something that Benjamin just alluded to. It came from the press conference with President Zelensky about the sky. Watch.
We want to introduce shutting of the Ukrainian sky because our people are dying. But if you cannot shut the sky now, then now give us the timeline. When will you do it? If you now cannot provide the timeline, tell us how many people have to die, how many limbs have to fly away from people's bodies, so you hear us.
Greg, you want to take a stab at that?
Well, yeah, because when as an American, you never thought much beyond mutually assured destruction. You bomb us, we bomb you. Everything's cool. We've been doing that for 50 years. But Putin is forcing us into a different spot. Do you believe in extended deterrence? Meaning, if we bomb Ukraine, what are you going to do about it? That's not mutually assured destruction anymore. So why does this matter? It's about the no-fly zone. The no-fly zone, he is saying, I will go nuclear if you do this, right? And so that's testing our belief in extended deterrence. And I'm wondering, do we actually believe in this anymore? Should we be believing in it? And is a no-fly zone when it's over, if the country itself is asking for it, how can that be perceived as like an act of war if that's the country asking for it?
It's so interesting because I was thinking this morning about, Judge, maybe you'll get your take on this. We've been playing by the rules on the mutually assured destruction. Yeah. Putin broke the rules.
Yeah, this is
so then do we rethink the rules? I'm not
Cuba. Let's do it.
Well, see, here,
you know what I mean?
I just got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is all-out war. There are no polite rules that you can follow. Apparently, Zelensky had a conversation. No, I think Macron had a conversation with Putin today.
Correct. Right.
And Putin said that Macron reports and Putin said the worst is yet to come. Now, what Zelensky was talking about there is the fact that they've got children with their legs blown off. We've got people with limbs blown off. We're seeing this. At what point do we say, as a human being, enough is enough? And, even Biden didn't bother to do his nuclear exercises because he didn't want to be seen as intimidating Putin. So we've got to make a decision here. We've got to decide total stop to the oil, total stop. Europeans and Americans can make him stop. There's nothing else that unless we want to get involved in the war. If we want to get involved in the war, then we can. But we still have the energy exception in the sanctions. And don't tell me more oligarchs have been exempted. Putin doesn't give a damn. He is evil. He is a criminal. This is all-out war. No Javelin, no anti-missile tankers or whatever they're sending over there are going to matter. And even assuming we can get them in through the West, they're starting to go to the West.
I want to play one more soundbite, and then, Geraldo, have you talk about that or this particular thing, because this is some delusional stuff right here. Call for number 2. This is Vladimir Putin earlier.
Our officers, our soldiers are fighting in Ukraine for Russia, for peaceful life in Donbass, for denazification of Ukraine. So no country that would be hostile to us would be, so that we wouldn't have an enemy right at our border, especially threatening us with nuclear weapons.
Ukraine doesn't have nuclear weapons, Geraldo. They gave them up in 1994 because we said we'd protect them from just this very thing.
That is a feral, evil war criminal. I've covered a lot of war over the last half century. There's always been collateral damage. It's so tragic. You hate it when a civilian gets killed inadvertently. They take out 2 soldiers and 20 civilians. That happens. It is awful. But this is not collateral damage. This is specifically targeting civilians. He is a terrorist. He is specifically trying to kill as many women and children as he possibly can to terrorize the fighters in Ukraine. And I'll say this also. Any business person, any company that buys Russian oil is complicit. You are aiding and abetting a monstrous war criminal.
You
are just
America?
as guilty.
That includes America?
It includes every one of us. Every one of us.
America?
If we buy, I don't know about the nations, but generally, but I'll talk about any business person in America or anywhere else who buys Russian oil, you are complicit. Your hands are, there is blood in that oil. You may get a bargain on it. It will haunt you forever. Turn your back on it. This has to be seen in the context of what it is. This man is attempting to wipe out the Ukrainian race.
Okay, and call for number 5 for Jesse to comment on, please. This is what Zelensky said happens after Ukraine.
After Ukraine, if we don't exist, God forbid, then it will be Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Moldavia, Georgia, Poland, and they will keep going until Berlin Wall.
Jesse?
That might be what Putin wants, but I don't think he has the time or the money to get to Berlin or to Poland at this point. These sanctions are so devastating. They're up against the clock. No one's buying Russian oil. They can't sell 2/3 of the oil they have right now. It's that toxic. No one wants it. The banking system will collapse at a certain point. They halted the stock market. It's been done for 5 days, almost 6 days. I don't see how this is now a military race against an economic clock. I mean, this can go on months, but it can't go on years, and there's no way he can pacify this country, Ukraine, in a year. He's going to have to, 5 times the amount of troops? There's no way. There is no way. And we have all of the intel guys from the West on the ground in the Capitol hiding Zelensky in little bunkers all over the city. If you see him, you have to put a bag over your head, and they drive you around a few blocks for 30 minutes before you see him. If this guy stays alive and we quadruple the amount of weaponry we get into that country, there's no way Russia's moving on a NATO country at this point. They can't afford it. The convoy, we're hearing the convoy stalled out because all the tires blew. They didn't do maintenance on any of the tires pre-invasion. So that convoy probably won't go back out and start running towards the capital. They don't have spare tires in Russia. Plus, it's the muddy season. These things are stuck. Yeah, they're going to move on. They're going to go to Odessa, and they're going to come up through the river, and they're going to encircle the capital, yes. But I don't see him moving on Berlin. I don't think he has the time. I really don't. And right now, they're staying in their tanks because they don't want to fight. You don't see Russian soldiers out on their feet firing rifles. They're sitting in their tanks. They're shelling artillery into these cities, and they're just trying to depopulate them. Like they did in Chechnya, like did in Aleppo. And that's how you just scare everybody into being a refugee. Then you have the city. All right? That's what's happening. And I don't see how we can continue that much longer.
We have a lot more to get to. Up next, President Biden is under pressure.